right. What's up, guys? I am Brian, one half of the Fandom at Random podcast, and we're back with another random review. I'm joined tonight by JustineNUFF, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pun.
Yeah, I get it. And she's a great. I saw her on TikTok, and she has great opinions. She's very knowledgeable about horror in general. And as you know, this is kind of the spin-off from our podcast. It's like the horror edition, not a requel, just a spin-off. And
Nice
yeah,
live reference.
Yeah, we'll get into the movie in a second, but tell me what you're about and promote yourself, do what you need to. Let's hear about you.
I'm JustineNUFF. I'm on TikTok. I do horror content mostly. Generally, I do movie reviews across the board. I am a movie fanatic. I have been since very little. Horror has always been my comfort genre, though.
Yeah.
So I'm really into it. A lot of what I do is around the horror genre.
Awesome. Yeah. That's kind of what I've done a lot of random shit on TikTok, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to really narrow it down to horror stuff. And
That's
it's a good
my niche, but I do go off the book sometimes.
Yeah, right. And I mean, my podcast is called Fandom at Random. We just do everything fandom, period. So I'm kind of used to dipping into other pools,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that most film can do that very easily. There's a lot of segue.
Oh yeah. So yeah, obviously my niche is horror, your niche is horror, and we are going to be reviewing a horror movie tonight.
Yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. So
available on Netflix.
Yep, came out on Netflix last Friday. And directed by, oh crap, I knew I was going to, David
Blue Garcia.
David Blue Garcia. Story by Fede Alvarez.
Yes.
Now that
I'm a very big fan of.
Yeah, that is what really pulled me in, because Don't Breathe, Evil Dead, the
remake,
reboot, whatever you want to call it,
maybe sequel.
Yeah, I like to use the word seaboot rather than requel.
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorite remakes recently. So I saw his name and I was all over this movie. But
I definitely feel him in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. I am a big fan of Fede Alvarez as well. Maybe Fede.
Yeah, I couldn't know.
I'm not sure.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. Fede, just because it's fun to say that way.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, so that's how I used it. Yeah, but yeah, his story, I kind of knew at least that if there was a little bit of him in it, then it couldn't be that bad.
Exactly. And I think that is true.
To get things cleared up here, right? For people who may not be huge horror fans or huge Leatherface fans or Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans, this is a direct sequel in the vein of Halloween and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, where it continues from the first original movie and nothing in between is acknowledged.
Right. And there is a couple of slip-ups in timeline that I'm sure some people are going to cling to. And that happens, unfortunately. When there's this much time between an original and a sequel, you're going to have some issues with continuity.
Absolutely. And especially the way the franchise has jumped around, it's going to happen. Because, I mean, we have, let's see if I can just rattle this off the top of my head. You have the original, then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Then Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Yeah.
Then Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation with Matthew McConaughey, Renee
That one's a fun one to meme.
Right. And then we have the 2003 remake, right?
That's correct.
And an amazing
2006, The Beginning.
The Beginning, two of the best in the franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then we had The Beginning, and then 2013 was that
Texas
3D
Chainsaw Massacre. I think that's a remake.
Yeah, that was 3D with Alexandria Daddario, and then Leatherface, right?
Yes, I think you got it. And you know what? I do not have those notes in front of me. So I cannot say otherwise.
Yeah, I was just kind of, like I said, and it was a challenge to myself. I wanted to see if I could actually do it right off the top of my head.
Braver than me. I don't think I could have rattled all of those off.
I'm surprised I even remembered any of them.
I only had 3 written down just specifically because Kim Henkel is a writer-producer for those as well.
Right, yeah.
So
and which ones are those?
Not retconned. She is part of the new one.
Yes.
Which is interesting because I don't feel anything from any of them in this movie.
I agree.
I found that interesting to see that she is from those films, part of this. And I didn't get a lot of the old school feel.
No, it seems like they really were dedicated to going to like a modern direction with this one.
Which worked for the Evil Dead remake boot. What did you call it again?
The C-boot remake, requel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It did work.
Requel. Isn't that what requel is for? It was a requel.
Yeah, it's a requel. I mean, now that we have Scream, we have deemed requel the right word.
Right. A new term. I love it.
So before we get into the actual movie, what is your number one Texas Chainsaw movie?
Well, I'm gonna say the original for sure.
Yeah, okay.
However, I have the most fun with A New Beginning. Okay. The New Beginning is my most throw on the TV for some joy.
I see. I think I would almost agree. Original is my favorite, but the remake is close second, and then Beginning is almost tied with the remake.
The remake from, what is it, 2006, 2009?
Something like that. I thought it was 2003, but I think you're right. 2006. Yeah.
That one came out in my like teenage years.
Yeah.
So like late teens. So that one I definitely hold really close as well.
Right.
There was a grittiness about remakes back then. It was the same way with House of Wax and with the Friday the 13th.
Hills Have Eyes, I think, came out right after that too. One of my favorite remakes. Yeah.
They all had that glow, that gritty glow to them, that very Michael Bay-esque look.
Yeah, right. And we didn't get oversaturated with remakes yet. That's kind of what really kicked off the horror remake boom, if you want to say, you know.
And we were digging it then. I don't know where the hate came from on those, but somewhere between when they first came out and about halfway to now, there was a thing about remakes that just everybody agreed to hate them.
Just because we have an overflow of them doesn't mean they're bad. There's going to be some bad ones, but I love a remake. It breathes new life into a movie that needs it, and you know.
So speaking of remakes, I do want to talk about this a little bit because this is something that I feel like I fight a lot. I am a huge fan of remakes. I get really excited for them. I think they get a lot of unnecessary out the gate hate.
Yes.
I can tell you so many remakes that I love. I find that most remakes are more successful than sequels. And this is like a good example of that because this could have been a remake and I think it would have been more successful.
Absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, definitely. So, we'll get into some plot points as we talk about the movie, but what you just said right there, I want to remember and put in the back of my head because that's a good point.
Yeah, we'll definitely visit again because it's strung up with my biggest complaints. So we'll hit it a lot.
But to piggyback off that remakes, I am a remake person. I love remakes and I don't get the hate for them either, but you know, in the horror community and any fandom period, you're gonna get haters like 2 to 1. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I'm glad you like remakes because it makes me feel a little less lonely.
And that's why I started TikTok and also why I was afraid of TikTok. So I was worried that I was going to have a lot of unpopular opinions. I was going to defend a lot of movies that I think generally a lot of people don't like. But so far, I think a majority of the horror community has been incredibly welcoming on TikTok, which is really refreshing.
I think the horror fandom is one of the more accepting ones. You're always going to have toxicity and you're always going to have haters, but horror definitely is limited compared to other fandoms.
Yeah, I would say we are the best when it comes to gatekeeping, but we still have it.
Yeah, right. It's still there, but definitely not as prevalent as other things.
And we're all quick to defend it in the comment section. So
hell yeah. Oh,
we're
absolutely. But yeah, I mean, you're braver than me because I haven't posted as many videos on TikTok about, excuse me, my controversial theories, but I'm getting there.
What is your most controversial opinion around
Oh my God. So I think we were talking earlier, and I think I've brought it up in my podcast before, but this is a video strictly for horror fans. So yeah,
so perfect.
Crucify me right now, right? Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie is one of my favorite Halloween movies.
Stick to it.
It's just, I was at a time in my life where it really hit, like, I don't know, depression, anxiety, all that bullshit. And the way Rob Zombie got into the mind of Michael Myers and the tone of it, and then Annie's death scene, just really, it was a heavy movie, and I loved it. I loved it.
That's so valid, because I feel like I get a lot of hate for my opinions around Michael Myers. He's not my favorite slasher. He just isn't. Neither is Jason, to be fair.
Yeah,
I'm a Ghostface girl.
There you go. Ghostface right in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it's at. Oh my God, that's awesome.
But I found Michael Myers in the original Halloween that was an amazing film. It had great tension, a lot of stalking, and it was really good. Right. After that, the mystery is kind of lost, and we need more about Michael. We need to understand him more. He's not scary if you don't get what's going on.
Yep.
And I think Rob Zombie nailed getting Michael creepier. He made him scarier, more intimidating. Definitely. And that's because he built the character. He built it.
Built the character.
So I agree with you. I think Halloween, his reboot is fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. And you're right. How do you make so Michael Myers isn't my favorite slasher either, but one thing you can argue about the original is he was scary. How do you make him scary again without copy and pasting what has already been done?
There's not much more you can do with stalking.
No, so you add a backstory and then make him a brick fucking shithouse at 7 feet tall and one of the most brutal killers. Like, and to me, if I saw original Michael Myers in an alley and 2007 Michael Myers in an alley, I am gonna run to the original Michael because I'm too scared to face the dude who's standing 7 feet tall in an alley.
Yeah, and this new movie, this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre did a great job with Leatherface, I think. He is imposing. So to like tie some of this back to him, he did great with the design of Michael Myers, of Leatherface.
Yeah, right.
I thought the mask was great. I think that the character was very scary and imposing.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
Yeah. And Mark Burnham he played it off so well with the limp and the new mask and everything else. Well, let's get into it. We've talked enough about it ourselves. So let's start from the beginning, right? Excuse me. So we got new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What is it? 50 years later from the original, I believe.
That's right. So
we have,
according to research, he is 60 years old.
Yeah, which means he was 10 when he killed in the original one. One of those plot points we were talking about earlier. We have a bunch of young adults that have graciously came to Harlow to gentrify. I mean, let's just be upfront about it. Yeah, gentrify Harlow and make it getaway for hipsters, pretty much.
That's right. Just for their new beginning.
Yeah. And in the process,
investors need new beginnings.
Exactly. That's what it boils down to. And in the process, they piss off Leatherface's mother and end up. Let me stop here for a second. Spoilers all the way.
All the way. Yeah, we're going to dig deep into this one.
Before
it's available on Netflix, so go watch it.
Go watch it. Kill Leatherface's mother, and that's where the carnage begins.
Yeah, let's talk about that. His mother was very sweet. Very sweet.
Yeah.
And not wrong. So they really kind of vilify your main characters right off the bat.
Yes.
Except for Richter. And I do want to back up. When they meet Richter on the way at a gas station, he's carrying a gun. He's a real Texan, you know? But goodness, he's playing a harbinger. That's what I got from that right off the bat. I said, oh, is this our harbinger? Because That's one of my favorite tropes to look for in horror films is the harbinger. And then I was like, oh, he's a very good-looking harbinger. Very charismatic. They already want you to not like the protagonist and like him.
Which is interesting because, right, Melody and I always forget the other sister's name. Melody
Lila.
and Lila. Yeah. Lila, I kind of liked at the beginning, but Melody, I hated right off the bat, based off that Richter scene, right?
Right.
And it was almost like, oh, we're supposed to hate this girl.
We're supposed to not like these people.
Yeah. And we're going to get into it more, but I'd like to point out that's not the case at all for me. I actually started to love Melody and Lila both. So anyway.
That is an interesting point. So yes, you're set up to really not like some of these comments, and you're set up to like this harbinger who turns out to be much more important, of course.
Right.
More than just a harbinger, which I loved because I immediately loved that character and the way he reacted to them. And then the next time that you meet him, it turns out that he is their contractor to set up this commune of theirs. And he makes some funny jokes about, what is this, a cult? Yeah, that sounds like a cult.
That's a cult.
Yeah. And again, you're loving him even more now.
Yeah.
So this is going to be important when I talk about Sally later, when we get to her. Right. Richter, to me, was the most developed character, given the most oomph behind him from the get-go. And then Melody, like you said, you're kind of set up to not like. But then as things progress, you know, the mother gets upset. They're kicking her out of her home. They get the sheriff to basically escort her. And she has some failing health problems along the way. Yeah. Then you start to like Melody because she's not feeling good about this. She's starting to feel like she is on the wrong side of history. And you realize, well, as misgiving as her moral compass may have been in the beginning, it looks like it's not bad. Right?
Exactly. She has some strong beliefs, but in the end, we find out she deep down is actually a good person, cares about people, whether they're a stranger or somebody. And, you know, she may have made a judgment right off the bat, but that's the best part about her character is her caring for her sister the way she does, and then her interactions. Her interactions with the old lady, and after the old lady happens, you really start to figure out, okay, she's not terrible.
Yeah, and this is right after the mother dies, and Leatherface goes ahead and removes her face to wear it, and that becomes his mask. You meet, I think her name was Ruth, the girl that rode with them.
Yeah,
the first one to die besides the sheriff, of course.
Yeah.
And the deputy. I thought she was going to be more in this movie than she was. So this movie kicks off very quickly. It gets into it. There's a lot of deaths really suddenly. It happens right away.
It's like
it doesn't let up.
There's one scene in the back of that van, and actually, like, one of my favorite YouTubers, Lee McCoy, says it. Once that wrist snap happened, that movie took off and didn't let up.
Didn't let up. Yeah. So the movie definitely felt like that is Fetty pacing. Like Fetty Alvarez, he kicks off things and he doesn't let up. He did that with Evil Dead as well. It's just this barrage after that of kill after kill after kill.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was really great that Leatherface wore his mother's face.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad it wasn't just a random victim that actually made it. Let's rewind a little bit. How did you feel about them showing his real face, first of all? Because we kind of got to look at it.
Much. It was really through hair. It was like a close-up of his eyes. Yeah. I think what it did was it provided some emotion behind the killer. And that's not just a masked killer. He was very scary. You could see his emotion through his eyes, which is all you really needed to see later, too, even with the mask.
That's kind of where I was going with it, is that it builds up Leatherface almost in the vein of Michael Myers and Rob Zombie's movies, just not to the extent. We get a little bit of more humanity to Leatherface, I guess.
Yes.
So when he puts on, motive. And when he puts on his mother's face, you're like, holy shit, this is way more messed up than him just killing somebody and skinning them and putting their face on, you know? And I thought that was a big improvement that was made in this movie.
I agree. I thought it was really good. And it was really uncomfortable. That whole scene was just, it was cringy. It reminded me of, again, I'm going to compare this a lot to Evil Dead just because Eddie Alvarez was involved and I can feel him throughout this whole movie. Not as much as I would have liked. I feel like I would have liked him to be more involved because I think he could have made some changes. But maybe I'm just giving him too much credit.
I think you're right, though. I agree with you. So
I loved that it was really drawn out and really gross. I think I typically don't like gore porn, but in this case, it fit really well to really shift gears from what we were seeing before, which was this emotional man-child.
Yeah, I know, right?
Being turned into a killer, and now he's become a mindless killer. And the gruesomeness and the degree at which it goes from 0 to 1,000 makes sense for that killer.
Absolutely. And
so I loved that moment.
I know a lot of people who are fans of Halloween love the no motive, no reason, no rhyme, anything to killing, and they think that's scary. That's, to me, that's not scary.
Maybe the first time, but not maybe the franchise.
Maybe the first time, but in real life, psychopaths are often triggered by a traumatic event, often involving family or a loved one, that sets them off on a spree. And Leatherface, even in the original, was always about protecting his family, always about the family around him, the people around him. So it made complete sense that would happen.
And the motives don't have to be, we don't have to go deep on it. I mean, the motive just protecting his family and making sure there were no outsiders coming in. Someone was upset and it triggered him. That's enough.
Yeah. I mean, we have rednecks out in Midwest right now that would probably kill some people trying to gentrify their towns. So it's not way off.
There's a couple movies about it too.
Yeah, right. So Red State by Kevin Smith, anyone? No.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
what's that other one? There's one that's in Europe with a Nazi commune, and that one.
Oh shit, I can't remember the name. I know which one you're talking about, though. Yeah.
But yes.
So back to the movie, right? Also, one thing I want to point out before we get into the meat of the movie, Lila and the background of the school shooting, I thought was a great twist.
I liked that. I liked that they showed a lot of compassion for two different types of people coming from two different point of views.
Exactly.
I loved Richter again because of that. I loved her and Richter's scene add a lot of emotion and character development to those two characters, where most of these characters so far are pretty tropey. They're very face value. They don't have a lot of dialogue that really carries them outside of their surface motives. Lila and Richter are the only ones who really have that, besides Melody just being her sister.
Right.
And having that family tie, which is not enough if you don't explore it outside of a few interactions. So even Melody feels like a surface level character. She's the big protective sister.
Yeah, she does. And I mean, it speaks volumes that in that garage scene with Lila and Richter, when they cut away and then we come back to her smoking a cigarette coming out of the bathroom, I wanted to know what happened in that time. I'm like, I want to hear that conversation, you know, because it ends with him being like, oh, school shooting, that sucks, or something like that. Like he was relating to her.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away. I'm like, come on, man, build on that relationship, you know?
There could have been an opportunity later for a flashback scene for Lila and him and their conversation.
Yeah.
And when we get there, I will tell you exactly why I do not like the Sally character.
Yep.
So they get into this car wreck in the sunflower field, and he becomes Leatherface, rips his sister's face off, or his mom's face off. And Ruth is on a mic trying to call police. And nobody's answering but a gas station attendant. And this is when we get introduced to Sally's character, because he hears he's putting on her face.
Yeah.
And of course calls Sally to let her know. And this sends
Sally, who is a ranger, a Texas Ranger, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Because that's like a big point. Like, why would this bitch be coming back after all this? She's a ranger and she's been hunting Leatherface. That's why.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's been waiting for the time to come back and exact her revenge.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is so weak. It is such a weak storyline, and it is such a copy and paste from many films, not just Not just Halloween.
I know everyone likes to call back to that. It's not just Halloween. It's a very common trope.
Any film that involves any type of legacy character being brought back. Sarah Connor. I mean, the list goes on.
It really
Ripley. Where does it work? Where does it work? It works in these franchises where the legacy character has always been there.
It's a main character. It's always been there, up front and center. Absolutely.
You've developed with them movie after movie. They are the ones that can come back and it be successful. Yes. Not 50 years later.
And with a different actress, mind you.
A different actor. What is the point at that point? So what would I have liked to happen? I would have liked Richter to be that role.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish he didn't get his head beaten in. I just wanted to see him get knocked out. We think he might be dead. Girl gets the keys, moves along, and I may be jumping around if anybody doesn't.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But instead, he's not dead. He comes out with the AR-15. He gets a few shots off. He gets knocked back again, and now he's dying, just like Sally was. And he hands her the AR-15, and there's a flashback scene.
Yeah.
Where he's showing her how to use it.
Perfect.
It would have been beautiful.
I like it.
And
see, you should have been a writer on the movie.
And that's it. That's what we needed.
I completely agree that we needed him to come back. And when I saw his death scene, let me just say, out of the deaths in the movie, there was 2 or 3 maybe that mattered to me. If that. Richter was the hardest one. I was like, oh, I thought he was going to be around.
Disappointed. I wasn't even, I was shocked. And that moment of shock is nice, but not when it was clearly outweighed by disappointment.
In the long run, when you realize like, okay, the movie would have been much better with him in place of a certain character. Yeah, it's disappointing for sure.
Yeah. I just, all I can imagine was how much that storyline would have mattered. Otherwise, what's the point of it? What was the point of her having PTSD and to, pick up a weapon and it not work for her because she didn't know how to take the safety off?
It almost feels like they wrote a version of the movie, like you said, where Richter was involved until the end and then scrapped it.
Yeah. I would have preferred, if they wanted to bring Sally back at all, that she just showed up to the end after the carnage.
Yeah.
And it opened it up for a sequel that she could be involved in later. Right. And then they could have done a sequel and it bombed and I would have not cared.
Exactly. Because let's be real. You could take Sally in this movie out and replace it with anybody, a relative from the first original movie or Richter or I don't know, any list of characters, and it would have played off the same. I think it was unnecessary. It was just fan service that did not work.
Fan service only works if the character was one super cared about. People liked it. I would have liked to see Sally be in a mental institution because she broke at the end of that movie.
And that was a big part of the original.
On the way. She was laughing. She was in shock.
Yep.
That would have been nice. I would have loved that.
Yeah, she wasn't a ranger tough ass that was coming to hunt him. She wanted to get the fuck away from Leatherface and never see him again, you know?
Right. Yeah, so I did not like Sally. I think a lot of people are in that boat.
Yeah, because to me, all right, let me just sum it up real quick.
Yeah.
I was watching this movie. I was hyped and I was on board. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. All the way up until like the third act, like the last 30 minutes when Sally shows up. Yeah. And that's when it started going. There's still some bright moments in the end, but it started going downhill for me there.
Well, everything fell apart. There was no real consistent payoff.
Yes.
You never felt something from any point in the film that carried all the way through, besides Melody and Lila, the sisters.
Yeah.
And their relationship was mostly separated throughout the movie up until that point.
It was, yeah.
They were barely, I mean, when they communicated, it was just to have big sis yell at little sis and little sis be sad. I mean,
although,
that's not...
I will give them credit here. The scene where Melody is sitting in the car seat stuck with a pipe and she's like, you need to leave now. He's going to kill me and you need to go. That kind of touched me a little bit. I was like, all right.
I did like that.
I get the feels a little bit there. But like you said, those moments were very few and far between.
Right. They didn't feel like they connected throughout the whole film. Like that was something we really needed to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because the moments between Richter and Lila felt more heavy. They felt more earnest.
They did. Yes.
So that could have carried throughout the whole film, and it would have just been a completely different movie.
Oh my God. It would have had a good payoff. It would have kept the momentum going, even though
His death would have mattered.
Yeah. And
handing off car keys.
Instead, we get Sandy, whatever, chainsawed in half to have her still be alive and look at Lila and be like, don't run.
Yeah.
It'll haunt you.
Do exactly what I did.
Yeah. Don't run. Do exactly what I did, laying here with a 4-foot hole through my body. Do that, you know,
do that.
where instead Richter could be dying, like you said, and throw her the AR and be like, you know what I told you, or something like that. Oh, that shit would have been so powerful.
Face your fears.
Oh, it would have been so good.
I would have loved a good like Richter face your fears.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or now, don't forget the safety.
Yeah. One of those like quick one-liners, and we get memes about it.
Been like with the safety and just turned around and lit them up.
Oh my God.
And then just ran out of ammo, and that would have been fine. Because the rest of the movie could have played out just like it did. And it
exactly. Because I was going to say, when you do the forget the safety part, you, like you said, replace it with no ammo and it still plays off the same.
Yeah. Just a few shots off because he already got some shots off. So there's not very many bullets in there.
Yeah.
Like, perfect. And then it all could have played out exactly the same. Just no Sally. Instead, we got the Richter payoff, a slight flashback to him showing her how to hold it and stuff, and then giving her a cigarette. And her going to the bathroom, like just a little tiny bloop right in there when he hands her the weapon.
It would have been perfect. See, we should have written the movie. God damn it, we were missing out. Now let's jump back here because we're missing a giant scene in the middle that we need to talk about.
A fun one.
The party bus scene, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my God. First of all, everyone's like, no one would ever say, oh, do anything in your cancel, motherfucker. Like, really? Have any of us been watching the news?
Literally all people do. When I saw that in the trailer, I was disturbed. Like, I was like, this feels so out of touch. But at the same time, like, I feel like they're just going to make fun of it. But we'll see how it plays out.
Right.
I feel like a lot of writers try to do stuff like that. And it feels really out of touch. And like, like your boomer grandparents are trying to make fun of you for being on your phone all the time.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It played out perfectly. I really loved that scene.
And they injected some comedy in it. And when Leatherface kind of looks at him like, really, dude? And then just wow. And starts going off on the bus. I was happy. I mean,
it was brutal. Was amazing. It was great. I think that the space that they used felt realistic. It didn't feel ridiculous.
No.
The choices to slow-mo in certain parts and to take out the sound in a lot of parts, to have just a bit of a chainsaw sound and some over music score going on was really smart. But I also think the best part of that scene is the lighting.
Yes.
The purplish blue neon lights.
Yeah.
Felt so right.
And
in the middle of this Texas town, it felt modern.
Yeah.
But on top of that, like the blood looked amazing.
I was going to say, like, don't think of me as kind of like this blood fiend or whatever, but the blood looked beautiful in that lighting. It really did.
So good. And the idea to use rain in this Texas town instead of keeping it dusty, brilliant, because it made sense why they couldn't hear things.
Yep.
Yeah, there were some really smart choices with production design.
We always see the dry, dusty Texas in all the movies.
Right. That's what you expect.
Yeah, it's a different setting. And there's actually one scene that on the bus that I got a kick out of when the driver gets out and all you hear is one quick little chainsaw startup in the background, like really quiet.
Yeah.
And then he throws the head. I thought that was really cool for some reason because it wasn't on screen, but it was just as effective.
Yes, absolutely. I also liked the moments when the sisters kind of are a little bit in shock on what's going on. It still hasn't quite registered. And they escape the one way that they can go, which is into the bathroom. And all I could think of was, how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't think of the exit that they used, because that, I swear, is in every single movie where they end up in a small space like that. Like, this is a trope. This is a callback. This happens in movies. Why didn't I expect that? And it still surprised me. I don't know, but I think it was effective. Like, the whole setup was effective.
You're onto something, because I was so focused on all the carnage and shit going on in the bus, I didn't think about a hatch in the top of a party bus, you know?
Exactly. And that just speaks to how that whole scene played out. Just because that is a trope. It's common. I should have known they were going to do that, but I didn't. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't thinking about it. No. I was just as shocked as they were in the moment, which is what you want in a horror film. You want to be
absolutely immersed. Yes.
And that scene does it.
They distracted you enough to not think about that trope. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But the bus scene, one of my favorite kills is when she's crawling through the window and he just
and that's when the lighting is beautiful.
Yeah, people complained about the CGI gore. It didn't bother me.
Notice it. I didn't notice the CGI, which speaks to me as how good CGI is.
It absolutely, and I maybe noticed it once or twice very quickly, but I think between the lighting and everything else, they really pulled it off.
Yeah, so that specific scene I can replay in my head right now because it's very memorable. But also the way that the lighting changed, and that's, again, it's gorgeous. You have this purple, bright neon lighting inside the bus. She starts to escape out the window where it's green and blue and raining, and the coloring is just completely different. And you get to see her, like, both of them in that scene when she's getting sawed in half. And the blood is different colors on either side of the window. Go back and watch it. It's like a darker purpley red brown on one side, and it's bright red on the other.
And I'm calling back to it now, and you're right that, like, I didn't even notice that. That's a good point. Yeah.
And I watch horror movies too much, so I pay attention to the blood.
Yeah, I know, right? It was just so much blood, I was paying attention to everything, you know? But definitely one of the most memorable scenes from this movie, and actually any of the recent big mainstream horror movies lately. So
yeah. And I think another good thing to point out with the cinematography of the whole film is really, again, Fede Alvarez.
Yes.
That is, there is a cinematographer who is directing. So David Blue Garcia did cinematography on a couple films before this. So I haven't seen those though. So I'm not sure if it's his style, but I know it felt like Evil Dead remake.
Absolutely.
It felt like Fede Alvarez. And I think one thing that he does get right is the use of rain, the use of lighting, and the use of this kind of very, again, gritty, not Michael Bay gritty. It's different. It feels modern.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a modern James Wan style with the way that everything has a certain color to it.
Yeah.
When you're outside, it's blue-green, kind of like your background is right now. When you're inside, it was much more brown and muted. And when you were in the bus, it was bright and purple. And it's just the use of color really carried this film.
Definitely, because it calls back to the most recent movie I've seen from James Wan, Malignant.
Yeah.
Colors were used great.
I liked this movie better than Malignant.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be an unpopular opinion, I think.
Yeah. I love Malignant, but I would pick this one over Malignant.
I would too. I did not. This felt like a new movie. This did not feel like, and I know a lot of people are comparing it to Halloween Kills. I also liked this better than Halloween Kills.
I did as well.
The cinematography and the production leaps and bounds better.
Yes.
And dialogue, it didn't feel like a ripoff.
Dialogue
else, except for the Sally character.
Exactly. And dialogue for me
we're going to call back as a ripoff.
Yeah. Halloween. So subgenre in horror is Halloween fans, and they're like rabid dogs. Don't get me wrong, I love the Halloween community, but holy shit, they will get on you about Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
And I am one of those people who like this better than Halloween Kills, and I didn't really like Halloween Kills, so that's me, you know.
Didn't really like Halloween Kills either. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes sense. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was very cheesy. The dialogue was just horrendous.
And that's why everyone's like, oh, how can you like Halloween Kills? I mean, hate Halloween Kills and like this? Well, because the dialogue seemed a little real in this one.
It did. It felt much more natural. It didn't feel. I think Halloween Kills had a lot of bad acting too, and I will say this cast is great. The acting was great.
I fully expected to not get on board with any of the cast in this movie, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about that because I feel like, again, Richter really sold his character and I really adored him. But they had Alice Krige in this movie. And that made me, I did not look at the cast before I watched this. And when I saw her come up on the screen, I literally Snapchatted it immediately and said, Alice Krige. She is so creepy. Like,
didn't she play Zelda in Pet Sematary? If I'm thinking of the same person,
maybe she also is in Silent Hill. She was in Gretel and Hansel.
Yep.
Yeah, so she does unassuming
and creepy. one of my most underrated horror movies ever. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Sleepwalkers.
I have seen Sleepwalkers. Yeah,
I don't know. Don't ask me why. I fucking love that movie. I don't get it. It's a cheesy, corny horror fest, and I love every minute of it. She plays the mother in that movie too.
Yes. Yep. So I adore her, and any movie that she's in, I'm going to watch. And she steals the spotlight every single time she's on screen. Like
she does.
She fits the horror mold so well. I think also Sarah Yarkin, who played Melody, is gorgeous. Like she has one of those faces that like really like expresses stuff, and she's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what you want in like a final girl or a horror scream queen. And I think she's going to be one to watch. I think she's going to do really well in horror just because of that.
That's why we'll talk about the ending and how that affects my feelings about the ending. But yeah, you're right. And she's awesome to watch in horror. And I have a feeling we're going to get a sequel out of this, but we'll get to that later. The characters. Richter was amazing, and I want to point out his actor name because Mo Dunford, because he deserves all the credit for playing Richter. Like you said,
the whole movie, everybody agrees. Richter's great.
And I hear people like, oh, no characters in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, first of all, when has characters ever been a highlight in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Franklin was one of the most annoying pieces of shit in the world in the original movie, you know? So the fact that we got two sisters that I actually cared about and a little bit of a redneck badass out of Richter with a heart of gold, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
Richter.
I'm happy with that, you know?
Yeah, I did touch a little bit on how I felt like a lot of the characters were really hollow. This isn't necessarily a bad thing for horror movies. You don't necessarily need super well-developed characters, but you need to have a really good story if you don't, or a really good motive or plot or something to carry you through the film. And unfortunately, this didn't really have that either. So you really notice that these characters are just not important.
Yeah.
And if they're not important, then you don't care when they die, which can be a good thing sometimes. But I don't think that this movie set itself up to be just a bloody fest. Like, no. It didn't. It has way too much production. It looks too good.
Yes.
So the characters kind of felt a little underdeveloped for this level of good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think just, again, that slight change of having Richter carry through, building on the Lila Richter kind of relationship as he was helping her with her confidence and her feelings around guns. And then the big sister not being there for her for once.
Yeah.
And her having to step up. I feel like that could have been something more and it would have meant more.
Yeah.
The sister relationship just was not strong enough or on screen enough to carry the plot.
No.
Now, were the actors good? Yes, absolutely. I think Elsie Fisher was also great. She played Lila.
Yes.
Her character, again, was just kind of forgettable, though. I mean,
it was.
What she did was great, but what she was Was it because of who she was? No, it was really just because she got to communicate with Richter. We liked
I was going to say, she kind of, she got played on by Richter. Like, some actors and actresses just play better off each other. And that's what happened with her, because otherwise they kept trying to stick her front and center. Without Richter, I would have been like, oh my God, we're going back to this. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is why she was not a good final girl.
Yeah, no. And I was hoping, so color me surprised. At the beginning of this movie, I wanted Melody dead the first kill. I wanted her the first kill.
Immediately, when you first meet her, you hate her and you're like, I want her dead.
And by the end of the movie, I'm like, if she's not the final girl out of this movie, I'm gonna riot. And unfortunately, she lost her head, and we're not gonna get a Melody.
Nope.
Yeah.
It was a really good kill, though. I really liked, again,
it was,
juxtaposition of like a deserted town and technology and the like self-driving car. I thought all of that was well done, and it didn't feel cheesy for once.
Right, yeah, because only thing is, it felt a little predictable, because when they hit autopilot and zoomed in on the screen saying autopilot, I'm like, oh shit, here we go, something's about to happen. And so I didn't know she was about to get decapitated by a chainsaw, but I knew something was going to happen.
It felt too, you notice it in horror movies when things get a little too quiet and you're too enveloped in what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's when you know something bad's going to happen, because there isn't really a lot of music. There's no ending music. It was just too quiet. You're like, something's going to disrupt this.
Yeah. And I do think it was effective, because then Lila could hang out the rooftop and watch her sister being killed. You know, that was crazy. That was crazy. So it worked.
It would have been better if it was Lila.
Yeah, it would have. If they switched the roles, it would have been better.
But not if Richter was carried through. If it was my idea.
Yeah.
And Richter carried all the way through, both girls would have survived, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I would have enjoyed that. But I do like the final kill. I do wish we could have, if we were to get a sequel, get more Sarah Yarkin, because I think she's great.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Maybe they'll utilize her in flashbacks.
I was gonna say flashbacks is like the only way we can really get her, and I'd be on board with that. I would be on board with that
too. I would too.
It seems like most of this movie was made very well, but some decisions maybe got interrupted by the studio, or maybe
think you're right.
Yeah, and because it felt like some of these decisions did not jive with what the movie was trying to do.
Yes.
You know,
I think money definitely prevailed for the studio here. They were looking to carbon copy some successes that have happened before in the past with bringing back legacy characters. We just had Scream 5, Halloween Kills. I wouldn't doubt it if this was a post-production change, just because a lot of plot points got cut. They were just severed right halfway through the movie. And it just doesn't make sense, except for Sally came halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
The one change that I think that everybody really disliked. Now, the horror community is not stupid. We know what we like. And when you try to pander to us, we're going to see it.
Absolutely. See right through it and get called out on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the one misstep of this film, and unfortunately, it really killed it.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I mean, if not for the last third of that movie, the third act, this would rank very high for me in the franchise. But I think we've covered everything. I think we've covered a good amount of this movie. Let me just say also, Leatherface and Mark Burnham, that limp that he had for some reason made him so much goddamn scarier to me. Like when he was chasing, I think it was Lila out into the rain, and he was right behind her and he was limping behind her. I was like, holy shit, that feels like the first time I saw Leatherface when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Credit to that
actor
guy.
Did great.
Yeah.
He was incredibly imposing. He was scary. He had these moments where everything was quiet and you thought you knew what was going on, and then he was just looking at you.
Yeah.
Those moments are so scary, and they did a great job setting those up without it feeling like you expected it, but you didn't expect it to that degree, you know? It was just really well executed. I think the stairway scene was one of my favorites.
Yes, yeah. That was one of the highlights for sure.
Or she got bopped in the head with a hammer.
Yeah, like
he was
like
very good at using what was around him to attack people.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
he didn't even get the chainsaw until the bus scene, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say until the bus scene, he had a perfectly tuned up chainsaw full of gas ready to go on the wall. No, I'm just kidding. People are bitching about that. I'm like, really? In a horror movie, like that
Oh, I thought
matters
he
to
filled
you?
it up.
I don't know.
Wasn't there a scene where he filled it up with gas?
I didn't see that scene. Maybe I was like,
I want to say that's when she was sneaking around. He was getting it all out and filling it up with gas, right?
Because people are like, oh, he hasn't touched that thing in 50 years. It starts right up. I'm like, really, dude? In a horror movie, that's what's gonna bother you? You know?
Yeah, that's why Cabin in the Woods is my favorite movie, because it talks about those moments and it applies the God complex control people puppet master thing to it.
I don't know if you're a Blu-ray DVD collector. Off book here for a second. Cabin in the Woods is coming out with a steelbook at Best Buy April 14th. It's gorgeous, and I plan on getting it.
Oh, I will definitely be buying
It's one of my favorite movies as well. So
yeah, I'm probably the biggest, I don't know, Cabin in the Woods fan out there on TikTok right now, because anybody asks me, what's your favorite movie? And it's always Cabin in the Woods.
I don't blame you.
I just can't stop talking about it. It ends up on every one of my movie lists, my top 13s. It's going to show up. I will find a way for it to show up.
Like I said, I don't blame you at all. That and Tucker and Dale vs. Evil are my favorite horror comedies out there.
Me too. Yes, that one's up there. I think it's like 15 on my top 100. And then Shaun of the Dead, of course.
Yep. I haven't made a top 100 yet.
I love self-aware horror.
Yeah.
Which could be why I tend to like movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one we're talking about, more than most.
Yeah.
I feel like I am okay with some of the framework of horror, and some of that comes with some missteps. And missteps could be poor character development. It could be tropey legacy callbacks. I don't hold movies too accountable for that stuff. In this case, the legacy character was a huge misstep. It was a huge uncalled for misstep. But I still really enjoyed it.
I'm more forgivable. Yeah, I'm more forgivable to horror movies for sure, because I expect those tropes and I'm okay with those tropes, and some of the cliches actually can make a good movie, you know?
Yes, exactly. I might have misspoke. I might have actually given it 3 stars. I'll have to look at what
Texas Chainsaw?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go 1 out of 5 stars?
I do.
All right, so you gave it 3 stars. I like to rate 1 through 10. Yeah, I feel like it gives me just a little bit more leeway on rating movies. So for me, my ending score would be 7.5. I think
7.5 is good.
Yeah, because 7.5 is like a good horror movie that I would watch again, but maybe not have to watch once a year like some of my favorite movies. You know what I mean?
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the last 25, 30 minutes of this movie, it would have been even better. But for me, it was a great entry in the franchise, and it's probably towards the higher end of the middle for me.
Yeah. If I were to put this on, I need to rank my Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Me too.
Again.
Yeah.
But I put this one on a 3 out of 5. If I were to do like a out of 10, I would probably give it a 7, a 6.5, 7. Yep. I think it's mid. It's a mid movie. But it is a fun one. And for me, rewatchability ranks so high, and I will rewatch this. I know I will. I love the look of it. It just looked so good.
Right. It kind of reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, where Dream Warriors is hailed as one of the best sequels.
My favorite.
And I agree. It's the best sequel in that franchise. But
I think it's the best in that franchise.
You want to hear it? You want to hear a controversial opinion? My favorite is Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Oh,
I love that. So first of all, bias up front. First horror movie. First horror movie I've ever seen when I was like 3-4 years old was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. So Yeah, it has
exactly
that.
Why Dream Warriors is my favorite.
It has that factor for it. Yeah.
The first one, I was like 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The living crap out of me. And then I could not watch it again. I was too scared of Freddy Krueger.
Oh,
and then I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, and of course they win in that one.
Yeah, it's a little funner, you know.
I watched that one the most.
Yeah.
But it also has the coolest kills. Like
it does, yeah.
Out the window.
Oh my God, the TV kill, welcome to primetime, bitch. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything about it. So my point was, even though that's the best sequel,
scheduled program.
Yeah, you're right. It's 4 looks cool, it's fun, and it's definitely rewatchable because of how fun it is to watch.
Yes.
Even though it's not the best of the sequels, it's always a fun watch.
Exactly.
And that's what I feel like this Texas Chainsaw did.
Yeah, and I had to go back and rewatch Malignant for that same reason. I thought the first time I watched Malignant, I hated it. I did not like it at all. I was very disappointed. I think I gave it like 2 stars.
Wow. I mean, that's a very less.
I was very disappointed. Yeah. And then I went and rewatched it with some friends in Discord for a rewatch, like a watch party.
Yeah.
And one of my Discord friends loves it when I rip on movies. So this is why we picked it, because I can go on and on for days on why Malignant is a terrible movie.
Okay.
So we were rewatching it, and I had so much fun rewatching it and just ripping on it.
It's like
I actually found things that I liked about it. And I was
it does kind of strike me as that kind of movie where if you watch it at a party or with people with popcorn in lap, it is better. Yeah, so I could see why you would like it a little more watching it with some people, you know?
Yeah, and rewatchability is important. So it definitely gained a little bit more respect in my eyes, just because it does matter if you enjoy it. If you're going to watch it again, I'll probably watch Malignant again.
Absolutely.
Just because I really enjoy making fun of it.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. As long as it gets you to rewatch it, though,
I think I'm going to find more reasons that I enjoyed it and why I enjoyed it. And maybe other people didn't.
I was shocked that I liked it. It, by all accounts, that movie, that type of movie, the way it played out, I should have hated it. And if somebody had told me before I watched it, I'd be like, I'm never watching that movie ever. But by the end of the movie, I'm like, holy shit, I had a good time watching this. I'm gonna watch it again.
So, and I think a lot of people felt that. I think a lot of people were expecting to hate this movie.
Yeah.
Most sequels and remakes kind of get a bad rap right out the gate.
Yep.
And so a lot of people were pleasantly surprised. I don't know if this movie is ever going to get over the Sally character being in it. I don't think it's ever gonna recover, unfortunately.
The memes
Do you
are
think
always
it'll
gonna
still
be
get
there.
A sequel?
I think it will. Yeah. I think Netflix doesn't have a horror property that they can really build off of, except the Haunting of Hill House, and that's a TV show.
I love Mike Flanagan.
That's the first season scared the ever living shit out of me.
Me too.
I don't get scared anymore. Like, it just doesn't happen. And that movie, that jump scare, I thought my soul left my fucking house, walked right out the front door, and then came back. I was like, oh my God.
Do that again.
Oh man. So Mike Flanagan, I've been a fan of ever since.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But anyway, I don't think they have a horror property that they can rely on. And I think this did well enough that it could do it for them.
Yeah, I think I don't know how much money Netflix makes off of these straight to streaming productions, and if that matters to them. I think that there were enough people curious because it was the first one to watch it that they may have seen some success there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the reviews are good enough for them to feel like people would come back for a second viewing.
You might be right, because I'm thinking on horror terms, obviously, right? And from what I hear in the horror community, but if they are looking at all aspects and critic reviews and general audience reviews, that's a good point. It might not be enough for them to be sitting in a boardroom like, well, this did good enough to get a sequel, you know?
Yeah, but I do think Netflix does have success in horror.
Yeah.
Anytime they post, like every October, their viewership goes up.
Right.
And I want to think that's because they put a lot of horror properties on there.
Well, I'd like to think that, but Tubi, I have discovered, is the place for horror. Like, if you love horror,
I am not on Tubi.
Tubi is free, and they have the best horror catalog I've ever seen. Actually, almost every month they surprise me. So if you're curious,
HBO Max has been surprising me as well.
They do
feel
good
like
too.
They tend to have a lot of horror that I enjoy, like high good horror.
Yeah,
good stuff. The box office hit stuff. But not necessarily like Shudder, where it has like all horror, like all the horror.
Exactly. Yep. But
good or bad,
I always try and push Tubi on people. I'm like, if you love streaming, if you love free, and you love horror, Tubi's a way to go.
I'll have to get on it.
They're usually pretty good. But yeah, so I mean, I'm curious. I will be curious to see if they have a sequel. Crazier things have happened.
I think Netflix is going to lean in on their shows.
I think so.
They could easily just cut off the lower production value. As long as if they keep getting people like Mike Flanagan and keep doing shows like his or Archive 81, which was so good.
Yeah.
If they keep their level of horror shows like that, Netflix is going to be where I go to watch horror series.
Absolutely.
I don't think their movies have been bad. I just don't know how they stay afloat, personally.
Yeah, because
I don't get the budgeting on that.
I'm not too sure either, because Netflix movies are like one and done. I don't see a lot of them getting rewatched.
No. And I don't know of any that are good enough for a rewatch.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm kind of curious too.
I'm trying to think of any that I would rewatch.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of anything. It's all TV shows.
Before I Wake, I've rewatched a couple times, but that's Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because it's Mike Flanagan that I keep watching it.
Yep.
I really like his work. So
yeah,
and that's a gorgeous movie, but
I
cannot think of any others. So I watched most of the Fear Streets. I did not finish one. So
I liked them. Never felt like I had to go back.
Is it 1766 or something like that? I didn't finish that one. It was really boring.
That's funny. It's exactly what happened to me. I liked the first one. Second one was really good, and then started the third one and did not finish it.
I really enjoyed the one that was at camp.
Yep, the second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
I watched them all out of order too. I watched the second one first, and then I watched the first one, and then I tried to watch the third, and I was like, that's boring. Compared to those two, that was a real letdown.
Yeah, it was a little bit, but yeah, so they don't.
But I wouldn't rewatch them. I'm not their audience.
No,
that's
I'm
for
not
teenagers,
either.
I think.
Yeah, and even like hitting the 90s, where I would love.
You would think, yeah.
It was just kind of like
it had the best kills. That one did.
It did,
they were the coolest kills.
Right. Yep. But either way, I think at the end of the day, we have a entertaining and decent attempt at a Texas Chainsaw movie from Netflix. I am satisfied with it. Sounds like you're pretty satisfied with it as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it better than Halloween Kills.
Yeah, me too.
Trigger some more Halloween.
I was gonna say, let's see if I don't get a lot of comments on these videos, but if we do, it's gonna be that.
It's gonna be that.
Yeah, it'll be that.
Well, you brought on someone who's not quite the Halloween girl.
And that's what I want, because I hear people rave about fucking Halloween all the time. I don't need that. I want people who like Rob Zombie Halloween. I want people who don't think Michael Myers is the second coming of God.
Here's two things that happen in my comments. Whenever I post any type of like top 13, and I do top 13s a lot.
Yeah.
Every single time I get someone in the comments saying, what about Halloween? Or what about Rob Zombie?
Yeah.
House of a Thousand Corpses. It's always Rob Zombie or Halloween fans that want to wonder why their movies didn't make my list. And it's like, oh, they're just not my favorite.
I'm a Rob Zombie fan, but I'm not a fan enough to be like, he should be in your top 13. No. I love Rob Zombie's work. Some of it. To be fair, I hate some of his work too.
I do too. It's very hit or miss.
Yeah. But I would never be like, all right, Halloween or Rob Zombie needs to be in your top 13. I don't think either one of them are very one-sided to where they need to be on a list.
And I don't dislike John Carpenter. The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Thing is amazing.
They're both built on tension and paranoia, and they're they're great for that. I will say there's that Halloween scene where she's trying to get the kid to open the door. One of the best scenes in horror. That is so scary.
Right. Yeah. And again, it calls back to like the original being scary, you know?
Yeah. So I'll give you guys a cookie. The original Halloween.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
but the franchise, you know, I mean, franchises, period.
I say the same about Friday the 13th franchise too, so you guys aren't alone in that.
Well, see, I, for one, love Nightmare on Elm Street. If I had to pick one of the big three or big four, whatever you want to call it, Nightmare on Elm Street is my jam. I think all the movies except Freddy's Dead hit at least a certain note. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Friday the 13th.
I love the Nightmare franchise for sure.
Yeah. And Halloween, I think there's too many misses to be
What
great.
do you think are the big franchises?
So you got obviously Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. And then if you really want to go full out, you can call it Texas Chainsaw and Chucky.
Okay. What about Scream?
And then Scream is
on
it's on its way there. We got 5 movies. So I think actually, technically, you could say we got a good franchise.
If Chucky is there, you got to have Scream.
Exactly. At 3 or 4 movies, I'd say, well, then they haven't put out enough yet. But now you're right. Absolutely.
What about Alien? Do you count those? I mean, they're not slashers. So.
Yeah, no. When you're talking about like the big horror movies, a lot of people out there consider it sci-fi, which I think is bullshit. But
I think they're horror. But
yeah, I think they're horror.
Sci-fi horror for sure.
Yeah, full on horror. And but yeah, I think when you're talking about like the big heavy hitters,
it's slashers.
Yeah, you got Ghostface, Chucky, Jason, Michael, Freddy. So 5. Yeah, 5 of them.
Yeah. And then how would you rank those?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, that's a pretty easy ranking for me because it would be Nightmare on Elm Street / Freddy, number 1 every time. Ghostface, which, depending on the day or month, could bounce to first place.
Yeah.
I love Ghostface. Scream is amazing. And yeah, so it could tie with Nightmare sometimes.
Fair enough. We can have ties. These are our rules.
Right. Yeah. So Nightmare, Scream, bounce 1 or 2 between those. And then Friday the 13th, Halloween, then Chucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is very different.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I would say Ghostface.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Freddy.
Okay.
Then I would say probably Chucky.
Okay.
Again, rewatchability. He's just very charismatic.
Absolutely. Well, see, the dark ages of like Seed of Chucky and shit kind of throw me off.
So, Bride of Chucky is one of my favorites. I watched that.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah.
Oh god, the series was amazing.
The show was great.
Supposed to come out last year.
That was another surprise.
And then I would probably do Jason, then Michael.
Okay, so we're not too far off.
And if we're gonna throw Leatherface in there, he would actually probably be before Jason.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I will rewatch those the most. I'd say.
Oh, and we're already out of this movie already, but can I just say the scene where he puts makeup, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where he puts makeup on his mom's face? Oh, that was such a good throwback, and it was so subtle. It was like, all right, he's putting
that
makeup
reminds
on.
me of that line because that was one of my favorite lines in the whole movie too. If I would have known you were coming, I would have put my face on. And then he puts her face on.
Yeah, he puts her face on. Yeah. I didn't even see the foreshadowing in that until right now.
Yeah. He puts her face on, and then he puts her face on her face.
Yeah. Yeah. But it reminded me of that. That was one of those scenes I was like, fuck yeah, you know?
Emma, the Impact on TikTok, she recently did a video, so I'm going to like throw her in here. She pointed out that in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he wears a Leatherface mask, of course, throughout the film. And then before they go to dinner, he puts makeup on it.
Yeah, I always love that part. It's like a subtle part of the original where he gets his face done for dinner, you know?
Yeah, so that immediately made me think of that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it's time for a rewatch of the original now.
Yes. I mean, I feel like I need to rewatch all of them so that I can go ahead and do a ranking.
Yeah. Yep.
Why not? I did Friday the 13th last year because we had a Friday the 13th in the summer. So that was fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a ranking too. I like Letterboxd, so I'll have to do
I
that.
do too. I'm also on Letterboxd. Do we follow each other already?
Not on Letterboxd, no.
So we'll do that right after this.
Yeah, definitely.
But I use it for notes. So
yeah.
And for my rankings, for my top 13, I will build them on Letterboxd, and I will put notes in there, and I will post them and share them so everybody can see my rankings before I even make content sometimes.
Nice. Hell yeah. No, yeah, I'll get your information. And obviously I'm going to post all your links down below this video so everyone can go and find out how wonderful JustineNUFF is.
Thank you.
Seriously, like, it's cool. I love coming across TikTok channels and being like drawn in, and I'm like, oh, they're good. I want to follow them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I love meeting new people in this horror community because we're just a sounding board for some of this stuff. And I think that the horror genre is so important and so disregarded in mainstream, especially considering most of what happens in film happens because of horror.
Yeah.
All of the innovation occurs in horror films because there's no budgets usually, so they have to figure things out. The best stuff is always, even actors, the best actors have come from the horror genre.
Yeah, started from horror and worked their way up, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It really is. It's a great community. Yeah.
It's an important genre. It's an important group of people who are taking notice of it. And I think that Hollywood is too.
Yeah.
I want to say we're the loudest, most commune of people.
Right. So it's a cult.
It sounds like a cult.
It sounds like a cult. That's awesome. Well, you're right. I think Hollywood is finally tuning into what horror really is. I mean, you know, we talk about elevated horror, Hereditary, The Babadook,
Jordan Peele,
Nope coming out with Candyman. We got so much good shit now, so it's amazing.
Yeah, that's gonna scare me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I think that one of the cool things that you'll see, well, this isn't so cool, but movies that used to do really well in the box office were movies like The Last Duel. Those epics, those big epics with hard-hitting stories. Amazing dialogue, real production, right? Huge cast. Those used to do really well, and they don't anymore.
No,
they did not do well in the box office, and of course, that's our fault.
I know, right?
Of course, it's just they're not getting with the program. What we like now are hero movies. We like Marvel. We like fandoms. Fandoms are where it's at now.
Universes and communities, you know.
Yeah, so we want to. Scream did great in the box office.
Yeah,
it did amazing. And
I was surprised.
I was also surprised. I did not know it was going to do well because when I went to see it on Thursday, the premiere day, nobody was in the theater. There was one other person in the theater with me. Yeah, and I was like, it was like a 7:00 showing.
Wow. Yeah, because I went. I went Friday at like a 9:00, and it was pretty full.
Good. Yeah. So I was nervous. I was like, great, this movie's not going to do well. We're never going to get this.
Never going to get any more. Yeah, I know, right? We should get back. So I have a feeling I like Scream and Ghostface almost as much as you do. We should get back together and have like a Scream conversation. Just a franchise ranking, what we thought of the new movie, what we thought was different, what we thought was great. Like, have a good conversation about it, because I feel like we could. Yeah,
totally could, because definitely my favorite franchise. I watch those movies, like all of them, once a month.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go once a month, but definitely once every like 6 months for me. Yeah,
it's pretty bad. It's the movies I put on when I'm doing anything in the house.
Yeah, it's a comfort film, and I just put Scream 3 on 3 weeks ago. Just because
Parker Posey in that is my favorite.
I know, and it's just a good one to have on when you might be doing laundry, or not the best one, but a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. I am definitely down for that combo.
Awesome. Yeah, no, because I think we had a good conversation on this one. And I would love to have you back on this channel. And when you got your podcast up, I hope I can be a a guest on your podcast and, keep in touch with each other.
Next month, I should have it up and running. I'm going to pick your brain after we're done here.
Yeah.
And then see how much work I have ahead of me.
Do you have a name
I'm hoping next month I should have a podcast up. It'll probably, tentatively, it's going to be called Dirty Horror.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. I like puns.
Man, yeah, that's a good one.
I did a whole series called Dirty Horror on TikTok where I was just doing like slasher or generally horror themed pickup lines, sexual innuendos.
Yeah.
It was my Dirty Horror series. It was fairly
so that kind of reminds me of Scout Taylor Compton and Danielle Harris's new podcast, Talk Scary to Me.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
So they talk horror, sex, and like other crazy shit. It sounds like something you might be into. Check it out.
Yes, I'm gonna check that out. I have not been really good at getting with the right podcasts, like listening to the right podcasts. I do follow like Sloppy Horror, who's a friend of mine, and House of Cinema, who's also a friend of mine. He has great podcasts as well.
Love that.
So I listen to those a lot, and I only recently watched a Dead Meat YouTube. I have not watched him before that.
But I've heard
it was about Scream 5, of course, which he makes a cameo in. So I decided to check him out finally after seeing him in the movie. But people always tell you got to watch Dead Meat. Okay, I have.
All right, I will. Go on, calm down.
We can have time to listen to people's podcasts.
That's the thing. Like, I'd rather watch YouTube, so podcasts take a back seat. But yeah, that's one you should definitely check out.
Yeah, and I finally did. I'm starting to try to fill my time that I usually am like I throw on a movie to fold laundry or something. I'm filling that with podcasts now. So I'm not rewatching movies I've seen 100 times. And then my movie time is open for new movies.
There you go. See, you got it all worked out.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time we end this. We've gone on a while. A great conversation, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. I love talking to new people about horror, so this is awesome. We got JustineNUFF. I'm going to post our links all down at the bottom here and the name of your podcast, just to put it out there. Put it out in the metaverse, right?
Thank you.
I am Brian from Fandom at Random. You can check us out at fandomatrandom.com. And then this spinoff that I do with horror people, you can always check on the YouTubes. I'm always posting new videos. So we check Texas Chainsaw Massacre today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.